First and foremost, I start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakwakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And salutation to Akim out there pushing the truth and sincerity and use your body as a sacrifice, as the scriptures say. And shalom to the few Akwaf that listen in silence, as the scriptures say. This is Quran, children of the light. And we've been warning and telling you guys, this gradualism, you know, of them bringing the migrants in, the situation with majority of the migrants being men of fighting age. And not only are they from South America, but they're from other parts of the world. You have the Latino brothers, you know, um, so-called Mexicans, Issacharites, and so-called Venezuelans telling you that majority of these migrants are not from South America. They're from Africa. They're from West Asia, what some people would call the Middle East. And they have brought in over 7.2 million migrants within the last year. And this is another step closer, you know, to all hell breaking loose. Second Ezra is the 15th chapter and the 7th verse. 17th verse, I believe. Let me go to it. Actually, it's the 15th verse where I started 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draw near, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. And the modern day sword is the gun. The gun is a sword. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And so this is gradually happening because we've a few days ago done a lesson on Pittsburgh, no longer doing any uh, police calls from the hours of 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is considered a purge. They don't have enough staff, and you could thank the defund the police. People was marching defund the police, and they're the same ones screaming that they need protection. And that's the same reason why they have deployed the National Guard to the subways in New York. And as of lately, they're requesting the same thing in Chicago. So there it is, martial law. You have the military stepping in because the police are understaffed. But it's all gradualism. It's all problem, reaction, solution. Heligian dialect, and ultimately it's the Heavenly Father that's doing it. So let me get to this article. It say judge rules illegal immigrants have gun rights protected by Second Amendment. A federal judge in Illinois has found that the Constitution protects the gun rights of non-citizens who enter the United States illegally. U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman on Friday ruled that a federal prohibition on illegal immigrants owning firearms is unconstitutional as applied to defendants Heriberto Carballo Flores. The court found that while the federal ban is physically constitutional, there is no historical tradition of firearm regulation that permits the government to deprive a non-citizen who has never been convicted of a violent crime from exercising his Second Amendment rights. And this is crazy because you have American citizens that can't exercise their Second Amendment right, you know, and at the same time you have a bill being passed in Arizona that allows a homeowner to open fire on a migrant if they feel threatened. So this is So all of this is gradualism, gradually preparing you for the riots, the purge, uh, what Isaiah 19:1 say, I will have the Egyptians fight against the Egyptians. You know, it's about to go down. This is the perfect recipe for that climate. You know, matter of fact, let me go into the word gradualism. Gradualism is from the Latin gradus, step. It is a hypothesis, a theory, or a tenet assuming that change comes about gradually or that variation is gradual in nature and happens over time as opposed to in large steps. Because they know if they did a whole lot at once, took major steps at once, the people would revolt, you know. But because they got the bread and circuses going on, all this entertainment, awards, basketball, holidays, the election, taxes, the people are distracted to what's really going on. Okay, it says uniform materialism, incrementalism, and reformism are similar concepts for the social democrats. The socialist society achieved through gradualism, you know? So they're slowly taking a lot of steps over time, you know, which is going to create this atmosphere, you know. The people ain't going to have no choice but to turn up on each other, you know. It's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. And the whole purpose is, if everybody's fighting each other, nobody's really focused on the problem that's really at hand, who the real problem is. But ultimately it's the, bring this society down. It's the will of the Heavenly Father, you know. It says the court found that the federal ban is physically constitutional. There is no historical tradition of firearm regulation that permits the government to deprive a non-citizen who has never been convicted of a violent crime from exercising his Second Amendment right. The non-citizen possesses statute violates the Second Amendment as applied to uh, Carbajal Flores, the judge wrote. Thus, the court granted Carbajal Flores motion to dismiss. Coleman, a President Obama appointee, cited the landmark Supreme Court decision in New York, Rifle and Pistol Avocation versus Bruin, 2022, which established a new standard to determine whether a law violates the Second Amendment. Since Bruin, a multitude of federal and state gun control measures have been challenged in courts with mixed results. In the case, the U.S. versus Carbajal Flores, the court considered whether people who enter the country legally can be banned from owning firearms. Carbajal Flores is a illegal immigrant who on June 1st, 2020 was found to be in possession of a handgun in the Little Village neighborhood of Chicago. And believe me, man, the Little Village neighborhood is one of the most cracking neighborhoods in Chicago, and it's predominantly Northern Kingdom. He was subsequently charged with violating a federal law that prohibits any non-citizen who is not legally authorized to be in the U.S. from possessing or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. And the crazy thing is, in the state of Illinois and mainly Chicago, you can't purchase ammunition without having for one, a FOI card. You know, you can't just go in there and purchase ammunition with a license or a state ID. So if he's illegal, how did he obtain a FOI card? Was the gun illegal? the ammunition illegally purchased, you know. But see, that's not the point here because they don't care about none of that. They're able to join the military, they're able to join the police without having any paperwork on them. You know, they're able to own firearms and drive a vehicle without a license. And then you have people that are actually citizens that have had their rights restricted, restricted, you know, and and don't have you know, some of the assets that the migrants are having. It's like the migrants have more assets than a normal citizen, you know. And what neighborhoods are they predominantly in? They predominantly in Jake neighborhood, you know. So man, this is just the beginning of troubles. Like in Matthew 24 chapter, Yahushua said, all these are the beginning of sorrows, right? So this is the beginning of sorrows, you know, moreover, Jacob's trouble. You know, because we're in the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And we see that happening from the moment that we stepped in the year 2024, from January until today, you know. So let me get that Isaiah 19 real quick. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, rideth upon a swift cloud. That's the chariots. And this Egypt that it's talking about is the modern day Egypt, which is America. America is spiritually Egypt because of the hardcore slavery of the Israelites. The, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, ride upon a swift cloud and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of thee. Right. I will set, this is the point right here, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, meaning he will set the people against the people. And that's why I just keep bringing up this movie Civil War, because that's a part of the programming, you know. You got the laws that are being put in place, you know, and warn to them that practice evil because they think about it in the bed, and in the morning they wake up and they practice it. Those are the people that make the laws, right? Pass these laws, but at the same time, um, you have the Civil War that's coming, right? The movie, but also an actual Civil War that's happening because you have from this migrant crisis, you have 25 states that's on board with Texas and saying let's send the migrants back across the border. Mexico saying we don't want them, and then you have another 25 states that say no, we're with them coming here. But then you got all this increase in violence, right? Measles outbreaks, you know. So the country is split 50-50, you know. So I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, the people against the people, the American people against each other, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, right? And that's exactly what you have going on. But how much more further uh, up the road, you know, with all the legislation being passed, you know, with all the lack of resources for the jakes that already been here, and then the resources that's being applied to the migrants. You know, military vets don't even have adequate resources, and then you know the common what they call them, nationalists or proud boy, or you know, however you want to say it, right? So, and then you got the Democrats against the Republican. So all the way down the line, it's a split into the nation. Okay, so I'll now read it again. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, you know. So there go your civil war, you know, and they not playing, you know. All of this is happening relatively fast, you know. It's right there on the forefront, and that's why the Lord say, those of you that have eyes to see and ears to hear, you know, and this is spiritual because everybody has two eyes, everyone has two ears, but they don't see it, they don't understand it, but the elect does. So, man, I pray you were edified, and until next time, shalom.